On September 14, 2024, Amanda Foster stood in the conservation laboratory of the Philadelphia Museum of Art examining an old photograph that had arrived 3 days earlier as part of the donated collection. The donation came from the estate of Margaret Harrison, a 90-year-old woman who spent her life collecting historical documents and photographs about 19th-century Philadelphia. Among the 200 items, this photograph immediately caught Amanda's attention. It showed 3 young women, about 16 to 18 years old, posed in a formal studio. The date 1877 was written in faded ink on the back along with the words Chestnut Street Studio, Philadelphia. The cardboard bound was damaged with water stains and brown spots, but the photograph itself remained clear. Amanda specialized in restoring 19th-century American portraits and had worked at the museum for 12 years. Something about this image felt different. The 3 young women stood in a triangular group. 2 were white and wore elaborate dresses with high collars and lace. The third, a black woman, stood slightly forward in the center in a simpler but neat dark dress. In an era of strict racial separation, a picture of 3 young women of different races standing together as equals was rare and historically important. Amanda documented the photo carefully, measured it, and scanned it at very high resolution. When she zoomed in on the faces, she started with the 2 white women and then looked at the black woman in the middle. That is when she froze. At high magnification, she saw that the young woman's left eye was dark brown, while her right eye was much lighter, almost hazel. It was not damage to the photograph or a processing error. The other 2 women's eyes matched normally. The young woman had heterochromia, 2 different colored eyes. The condition is rare and even rarer among people of African descent. Amanda also noticed light retouching around the lighter eye. Someone had carefully softened the color difference without completely hiding it. She used the studio name on the back to search old business directories. One studio on Chestnut Street in 1877 was Howard's Studio, which advertised portraits of all citizens. That phrase usually meant the studio welcomed black clients, which was uncommon then. The photographer was Jonathan Howard, the Quaker who deliberately served Philadelphia's black community. The studio ledgers for June 1877 contained a clear entry: portrait sitting, 3 young ladies. Client Dr. Thomas Blackwell. Special commission. Payment $15 was a large sum at the time, equal to several weeks' wages for an ordinary family. Dr. Thomas Blackwell was a well-known white doctor who treated both white and black patients and supported reform causes including anti-slavery work. When he died in 1882, his will left $5,000, a fortune then, plus medical books, instruments and all photographs of Catherine Morris to Miss Catherine Morris, mother of Elizabeth Morris, in recognition of natural affection and caste services. His 3 legitimate daughters, Margaret, Elizabeth and Sarah, contested the will. They claimed Catherine was only a clerk who had worked in their father's office from about 1873 and had no right to the money. Court papers told a different story. A colleague of Dr. Blackwell testified that Cass had privately admitted Catherine was his daughter by Elizabeth Morris, a free black woman. A nurse who worked for him, Sir Elizabeth, died of consumption in 1874, and Nate Thomas promised to care for Catherine. He brought the girl into his office, paid for her education, and was especially concerned about her different colored eyes, which he said was a family trait from his side. The photographer Jonathan Howard confirmed that Dr. Blackwell ordered a portrait of his 3 daughters and asked him to soften the eye color difference slightly so people would not stare, but not to remove it. The judge allowed Catherine to keep the $5,000 of the personal items, while the legitimate daughters kept the rest of the estate. He wrote that simple justice required honoring the father's wishes. After the court case, Catherine lived in a black leather hood and worked as a medical assistant. By 1883, she was running her own small practice, helping women and children, with special attention to eye problems. She treated patients whenever they could pay or ought, and gained a reputation for helping factory workers whose jobs damaged their eyesight. Records showed that Catherine, Margaret, and Sarah had studied together at the Philadelphia School of Design for Women in the late 1870s. Years later, Catherine and Margaret published a medical book together called Illustrated Guide to Ocular Diseases and Treatments. Catherine wrote the medical text and Margaret created the detailed drawings. The book was practical and well regarded even though Catherine had no formal medical degree. Margaret's private journal, later donated to the Historical Society, showed the real bond between the sisters. In 1877, she wrote that their father insisted on the group photograph because Catherine was their sister no matter what society said. After their father's death, the legal fight created distance. But by the late 1880s, Margaret and Catherine were working together again. Margaret visited Catherine's clinic, admired her skill, and suggested they write the book. Catherine's health declined from years of overwork. She died in 1907 at age 48 from tuberculosis. On the death certificate, Margaret listed herself as sister. The headstone, paid for by Margaret, reads, Catherine Morris Blackwell 1859-1907, beloved mother and sister, healer of the sick. Only in death did Catherine receive the family name she had been denied in life. Margaret kept a second copy of the 1877 photograph for 47 years and left a note on the back calling Catherine her sister. In 2025, Amanda opened an exhibition at the museum based on her research. The centerpiece was the original photograph. Visitors could zoom in on Catherine's eyes. Descendants from both sides of the family attended. One relative of Catherine said her different colored eyes had been a gift that helped her understand difference and become a better healer. A descendant of the Blackwell family said the photograph showed real human love and determination that survived despite the hard rules of the time. The exhibition explained that Catherine's story had been forgotten because history usually recorded of only white male doctors with formal credentials. Women's work was often ignored and black practitioners' contributions were dismissed. Recovering the full story required court records, medical journals, private letters, cemetery stones, and above all that one photograph. The different colored eyes that first made Amanda stop and look proved to me the key that unlocked a hidden family, a pioneering medical marker, and a lasting bond between three sisters who refused to let the rules of their time completely separate them. The photograph had survived. The story had survived. And finally, Catherine Morris Blackwell, healer, sister, and pioneer, would be remembered.